Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Well, footwork with the shot clock at 3. Hawkins going to have to hurry. Hawkins with 1 to shoot, contested 3 ball.
Thoroughly now, nearly stolen. It is stolen. Callaway's got it. Good Shabino behind the back. Plays it home. Oh my goodness.
Nice pass. Oh, what a find for Caravan for 2.
They never got reconnected.
Corner the find, a lean. Offensive rebound. Oh, what a feed.
How about that read?
Westbrook with it. Give it to LeBron at the right elbow. LeBron, one-on-one against Kenrick Williams. Backing him in. Turns, shoots, scores! There it is! All hail the new king in town. Young and old, gather round. From one iconic Laker to another. The king, LeBron James, has passed the captain.
Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency, alongside Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers. We are live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hail Varsity Club, currently drinking the official coffee of Coffee and Cream from the Beanery. 4 locations, Gretna, Papillion, Ashland, and the new one that they opened off of 168th and Giles. As I do my coffee all the time, it is hot. It is not ice, but you can really get whatever you want over at the Beanery. And it seemed like LeBron could get whatever he wanted after he beat the scoring record. Because not only did he get the big ceremony after it happened, but he also got the microphone with 10 seconds to go in the third.
Yeah.
How you doing, DP?
Good morning. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty LeBron-esque, right? I don't know. I don't want to listen. I don't want to be that guy, but I kind of want to be that guy.
Be that guy.
Nah,
be him.
Just again. So it's kind of what I've always thought about him. Just lack of self-awareness. You know, where am I? What am I doing? And is it about me? And I get
it's LeBron's world. We're just living in it.
Apparently. 10 seconds to go, and then we're going to do a thing. Not a quick thing. It's a thing. And then in 10 seconds later, we're going to finish
take a breather.
We're going to finish out the quarter. I don't know. It was weird. Some of that's on the Lakers too, man. It's just not LeBron. It's like you could have waited. I don't know. You're going to have your party. It'd have been nice if you won. You didn't do that either. I mean, okay.
Taking L's.
Did I
L's for
LeBron.
LeBron.
I was talking about OKC with Joel yesterday.
You were.
It's a dangerous team, but I don't know. I'm just watching all this stuff happen in the news, and I'm like, I'm just kind of over it. And I'm a diehard Lakers fan, but I'm experiencing a little bit of LeBron fatigue. I would feel better if they were winning. But listen, man, I mean, the guys had, what was it, 1402 out of 1410. He scored in double figures. 1,174 games. 5 now with 20-plus points. He's hit more clutch shots. He has more clutch points in playoff history than anyone. He's done it all. So I should be like, yes, celebrate your individual accomplishments. I don't know. I feel like Denny Downer, because number one, I want you to win the games. Number two, I'm a greater good guy, right? Like at that moment, finish out the quarter. But do you know why it bugs me? Because we're talking about that instead of
the accomplishment.
Yeah. And that, I feel like, well, you put me in a tough spot, but I can't overlook that. Well, I can't overlook the fact that you just grabbed the mic for minutes.
Yeah.
With 10 seconds to go in the third. Or should I?
Yeah, no. So I told you prior to starting the show this morning, they should have waited until the end of the game. For one, those fans would have stuck around. They would have stuck around if you told them, hey, LeBron's going to talk 2 hours after. Well, and you pay for tickets, and then right when the moment's about to take place, everybody has their computer pocket out, and they're just waiting to capture the moment as if you're the only person about to do that. And if you saw the photo on Twitter, and these are things that I like to pay attention to because, you know, a while back it was the Michelob Ultra guy when Tiger was taking his tee shot, right? And he was just standing there with his Ultra and everybody else had their phones out. And we live in such a digital world now where people want to be the one to capture the moment, or they want to prove to their friends or whoever the world that they were there in that moment because they have the video. But you look at that photo and if you see the landscape of fans behind the hoop, everybody has their phone out but one person. And that one person is sitting courtside. At first I thought it was Michael Caine. No, it was Phil Knight. Phil Knight just sitting there next to LeBron's boys and just watching the moment.
That's probably what I would do.
I would like to say I would do that, but I don't know if I would. I think I would be pulled into the people with phones.
I've done that before, and I've missed some moments. And I think part of it is just my personality because I hate taking pictures or having pictures taken of me. So I'm not a picture taker.
Now, I'll tell you what, though. You talk about stealing the moment because you're like, hey, you know, like, what are we focusing on?
What are we here for?
Why are we talking about the fans with phones? Why are we talking about LeBron with the mic? Why will I bring up right now that AD was sitting down on the bench when that happened? Like, you know, we talk about all the things that surround the achievement, but in hindsight, it's like, is that because we are LeBron fatigued?
I think that's part of it.
Or is it we like to focus on other storylines that surround the big one?
I think that's part of it. That's the first thing I asked you when I walked in. I said, which am I over more? The LeBron James thing or Aaron Rodgers? I was even going to throw in Dylan Raiola, but that could actually benefit Nebraska. So I'm kind of
you're kind of on board with that.
Still in with that. But it's like I do think, you know, I know and they're doing some interviews because I think they want to acquiesce, but I think the family's ready to move on too, which is why I think he'll commit relatively soon.
Do you think by the end of spring ball or the start of spring ball? Which one?
Like if I had to guess, I would say he commits before May. So spring will.
He's going to watch Nebraska's spring game and just be like, this is my place.
So you think he comes back on the 25th and the 22nd of April? Because he's here on the 25th of March.
Right. Is he the last? Is that like the last visit for him out of the pool of schools that he's like left as his favorites?
I don't know. I think he's got all his officials. Well, he has a couple left, I know for sure.
Right.
So, I mean, because the difference between an unofficial is one the school pays for, the other you're just coming out. So,
shows interest though too.
Well, duh.
Right. But that, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
but you're gonna come see your uncle and your alma mater a couple times, right?
Well, maybe. Like if my uncle attended a school that I didn't really want to go to, like I wouldn't say like that's the reason.
So here's the thing though, but your dad is gonna go see his brother, and that's your dad's school. I'm pretty sure it's not gonna hurt you to go.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
You don't have to be sending any sort of meaningful message. You're just gonna go. Now we'll be the ones that read into it. Oh, he loves it. Oh, he doesn't love it. Oh, he's gonna commit. Oh, he's not. But I mean, if I was in that same situation and that was my dad's alma mater, I'd go. Why not?
Okay.
They're recruiting you.
Right. Okay. So what I meant by that was more if you have interest of being there, like versus like, hey, I'm going to see.
I don't know.
Just my family.
I don't know.
I think
he came to the spring. I think he came to the spring game last year, and he wasn't interested in coming to Nebraska. So,
well, then Matt Rule sent 18 coaches down there to say hello.
Well, I just think that there was a lot going on. Because he committed to Ohio State a week after, 10 days after being in Lincoln, and I think he had
His mind made up.
Well, I think there were some things that he told Nebraska not to do, and they did it anyway. And it just further showed that they weren't really paying attention. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, but you don't come to the spring game in Lincoln and then commit someplace else, within the next 10 days and have had interest in coming to school at Nebraska. And for them, in my opinion, I could totally see it. I'm not going to say rightfully so, but I mean, he's asked for a few simple things. That's all. Just a few simple things. And that wasn't a thing. So, I mean, they moved on. But back in the fold now, and you've heard a couple of people. I don't know. I haven't seen any. I try not to pay attention to crystal balls. I'm sure they're out there. I don't know where he's being crystal balled to. But, I mean, we heard Sam, on our show. And I wanted to grab Mitch, but he was kind of doing the radio tour. So we gave him a rest this week just because like everybody else was talking to him. So I was like, give him some time just to be refreshing and do something different. But I think I didn't get a good sense after Mitch Sherman did the sit down that Mitch thought he was going to be Lincoln bound. I don't know. It's always interesting with recruits, especially super high profile, because I can only relate to what's going on in our house. I do think there's some recency bias, right? Like, what school was I just?
Well, that's why I think there could be some benefit to Nebraska being on the back end of some visits.
Yeah, but it's not going to sneak up on him though. Like what? So why though? Like what doesn't he know about Nebraska? They sent 9 coaches. Right, your uncle's there. You've been there numerous times. Like, what don't you think he knows?
I feel like you learn something new every time you go a place.
Yeah,
like you see
I mean,
something
I
different.
don't, but I think with schools, I think Now, is there something to going last? Probably not to the school. Maybe a coach in your home, though. But I don't think the school isn't going to change. And at some point, like, I think you're kind of over the dog and pony show of the pageantry and the red carpet. The
school may not change, but when you look at maybe certain situations or players or because things they're ever changing every single day. You may show up
stuff is different every day at our job.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. It could be a different conversation.
It doesn't sway me though.
Right. But it could be a different conversation of, hey, maybe we see you here quicker. Like, if you showed up, maybe it's a day one thing.
I think if it comes down to that, then it's not about what I think being recruited needs to be about. Like, on the 4th time or the 5th time, are you going to say, is something going to sway you?
Probably not after 5.
Well, let's say after 3.
Well, after 3, probably not either.
Well, that's kind
of. But that doesn't mean you won't learn something new.
Yeah, it doesn't have to move your needle, though. I mean, you can die on that hill. It's totally cool in the conversation.
It doesn't have to move.
But I don't think it's gonna. It doesn't. It's not. It doesn't necessarily have to sway you.
I don't want you to even say like sway. I mean, I just want to make you think. Like,
yeah,
look at a situation and present something new.
You've been recruited to come to a couple of different jobs, and I think after like X amount of times, I think if that's a place for you or not. That's basically what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, I look at other factors outside of just like the sport. So those things stay the same, but like what happens in house could change.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I will say this, if you look at the interest of the schools that he's getting, which is Nebraska, USC, Oregon, Georgia, when Sam said, hey, I think there's a good chance that Nebraska lands Raiola. When you have other schools like the ones I just pulled in with Nebraska, you would think, really? Like, You don't think Georgia is going to take the number one quarterback recruit? You don't think USC, who's had Heisman winners left and right, is going to appeal to him more than Nebraska? But then you look at situations, right? You remember that, hey, USC has a 2023 5-star right now in Malachi Nelson. Why would Raiola want to put himself in the position a year later? He didn't want to do that at Ohio State, so why would he want to do that at USC? You look at the Bulldogs and think, despite the fact that Kirby Smart is recruiting him hard, you have Todd Monken that may or may not be there. And not to say an OC is end-all, be-all for a kid coming in 2024, because they will establish themselves prior to that point. But it could play a factor too. I mean, you look at Nebraska, and it's one school that has their head screwed on straight. They have a path, they have a plan, they have a coach long-term, and they have set their stage and basically shown him everything that they're willing to do or can do with him.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that we're missing in that kind of linear scenario. I think number one, we don't know what it is that stokes the fire from a competitive standpoint, right? How much does he want to win? How much is who he's playing with a factor? Because sometimes I think we just make it about the opportunity. I think sometimes, people, they want to win and have success too. So, and it's not just about their opportunity. Because I think what people will figure out, and I say this in our house all the time, football is not one of those sports where one person can independently change a program. Now, that can definitely be a start. T. Frey's needed help, right? When we talk about those teams and we talk about that recruiting class, we talk about 30 other guys that were on that team, right? A Wiegert, a Zadiska, a Ned Stewart, a Sty, a Baron Miles, a Tyrone Williams. Like, you needed way more than that. And he missed a good chunk of time, and he was still an integral part as the prize quarterback recruit. We saw Ohio State have a couple of number ones in the stable at the quarterback spot, and they all didn't last because it's not easy in a team game where you need other things to go right around you. We've seen what's happened with Quinn Ewers. Like, the quarterback spot, it's interesting. I just think we don't evaluate it, right? Because I don't know if we appreciate enough of the things other than physical attributes. Your willingness to compete. Like, has it ever gone bad for you? Has it always been rainbows and butterflies? Do you elevate other people around you? How much do you win? How do you play against good teams when all things aren't equal? I just think too often when critiquing the quarterback spot, we look at measurables. And you know what's funny about that? Like, that's our fault. We know better. Like, we know better. You've seen, somebody gave me the analogy the other day. Jeff George, Joe Montana. Well, you watch these guys work out, you're probably taking Jeff George, right? Jeff George doesn't win near as much as Joe Montana. Tom Brady does it differently than Lamar Jackson. Russell Wilson did it differently than Trevor Lawrence. Like, we know. We've seen all these case studies about differences in Drew Brees is not upstairs. Drew Brees is not like Peyton Manning physically. But yet when we evaluate quarterbacks, boy, we sure try to lock in on a couple of things. And it's like, why do we do that to ourselves? There's a reason we miss on a lot of first round picks at quarterback. Because there are a lot of other things that go into it. You think Zach Wilson isn't pretty captivating physically? But here it's what we do, man. We fall in love with physical attributes. And I'm telling you, sure as I'm sitting here, 75% of being able to function in a competitive environment like that, like Division I sports, is your mind. There's a certain baseline that everybody has physically. It's your mind. Can you repeat the same thing over and over and over and over again, have a couple of hiccups, repeat it again, and handle it? that's the whole key. If you're fortunate enough to be gifted in that upper 5% as one of those difference maker, like a Ruggs or, a Devontae Smith or some guys like that, a Cam Newton, that's great. But there's only a handful of teams around the country that have them. It's those other teams that are coming that can continue to do the same thing over and over every day and know that you may not be at your best. College is hard, and it's not just about how far you can throw it and how quick you can get to your 5-step.
And I think what he's been doing, going back to Raiola here, because you took a deep dive just into all things quarterback on the inside and out, and it's a great way to look at it. We talk about the move that he's making from Chandler to Pinnacle, and
that gave you some pause,
and it did give me some pause because at first I was like, well, you always ask the question why, right? Because you had some success at Chandler. Why would you want to make another move prior to then another move? Mm-hmm. Because me in moves, I'm a guy that likes somebody that sticks around. Mm-hmm. I want you, whether or not things are easy, things are hard, that, hey, you're just not bouncing because even though you're surrounding yourself with better talent, because that's what he's doing in this case, Pinnacle's probably a better team this year opposed to Chandler. Just because you're doing that, but that how strong are you mentally now? Mm-hmm. Like, can you fight through when there's a little bit of adversity? Did you have to win another state championship prior to going to high school? Did you think you couldn't at Chandler? Well, are you thinking that because it's a you thing?
These are all rhetoricals.
Right. Yeah. Are you thinking that because the talent around you just isn't there and you're seeing that? Is that going to translate when you come to college? Because if you come to Nebraska, then you're not going to see that right away. You just won't. You may start something great. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago when we said, hey, this is if you bring in Raiola, this is a guy that can bring in a lot of other people just because you brought in him to play with.
We think.
Right. Exactly. That's probably a better way to put it. We think you can bring in other people. Can you really convince other people to do that? And if you can't, are you going to make a move because you want to surround yourself with talented people because you want to win? So all things to consider, a lot of rhetorical questions out there about Dylan Raiola, but I think all of that ties back into your point of, hey, outside of the physical attributes, what's going on the inside? How big's your heart?
Yeah,
how big and strong are you on the interior?
I just think quarterbacks are different because there's only one of them. And I got into this great debate, and it came up multiple years in a row with Michael Severe. And I think I'm kind of coming over to his side where he said, I'm the guy that says quarterback. I'm the guy that says competition is good. I want competition all the time. I look around town, like I want competition. I'm competitive.
You or Severe saying that?
This is me, and I'll get to the conversation, right? Yeah. So I said, I want Nebraska the last 10 years. I think it started with maybe Jebbia or some of the quarterbacks. And I'm like, man, quarterback competition is good. Quarterback competition is good. And he's like, listen, DB, quarterback is the one position where you want a guy and you don't want competition. And we'll get into why he says it. And I fought it for years.
It's a good point.
And now I'm kind of, I don't know. But I'll state both cases when we come back.
Hey, lots more to get to, and we'll set up the show, too, next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, if you're just joining us, it's the perfect time because I'm here to set you up for what you're about to hear the rest of the way. We'll play two for you in the next segment, presented by Dingman's Collision Center. If you want to play, 888-638-4876. Brian Christopherson on with us at 8, as he is every Wednesday. We'll talk to Kevin Sjuts, sports director at 1011 News at 8:30, and then Eric Warfield, former Nebraska corner and Kansas City DB, to close out the show. But before we get there, we took a break when DB set up something pretty interesting, and it was a conversation that he had in recent years with Michael Severe, and that was in regards to quarterback competition versus not having any at all.
Yeah, and I don't don't want to put words. The gist of what I think he's saying is that quarterbacks are such a different breed. Like, and they're the leaders. Like he's like, hey, everywhere other than the quarterback spot, you want competition. You want to have the guy at the quarterback spot. What spurred the conversation was we were going through Tommy Armstrong, his evolution, getting the start, winning the job, versus Adrian Martinez coming off in between seasons of his freshman, being super dynamic his freshman year, and kind of then he got in the weight room, got a little bigger, put on some weight, got a little stronger to take the wear and tear, whatever the rationale was, but was never really pushed for the job. Lost a couple of good quarterbacks in that span that transferred out. And then we got to talking about all these quarterbacks that are in the transfer that were getting in the transfer portal. And I never wanted the quarterback races to be settled until it was settled. Like, I didn't ever want an anointing. Now, full disclosure, I'm obviously conditioned
to compete for a position
based on where I've been, what I've done, and what I saw. Right. So I may be a little, I may lack a little objectivity. Right. But even T. Fraze didn't start right away. Brooke pushed him in the offseason. Brooke pushed him again in the offseason. I watched a quarterback competition go all the way down to the wire. And I think we were better for it. Because meanwhile, all our guys were getting better. So that's kind of what I know. I've also seen some quarterbacks at the next level sabotage a season because they were the guy and didn't have enough competition. I remember vividly, I'm like, man, just play Burline. Don't put up with what Kerry Collins is doing. Right? But I'm a scrub. I just signed a free agent deal. I may not even be here tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? I just knew what I was used to versus and what I saw happen. And I'm like, no. Like, you want Martinez pushed. Like, you want Tommy Armstrong to run a guy down from behind and get the start. You like Jebby, I wanted those guys to stick around and compete. I don't know, quarterback. I'm like, do I want the quarterback just to be the guy? Maybe in the NFL. I don't know if I do in college. But I'm listening a lot more in 2023 than I was in 2015. That's for sure. Significantly more. Is the quarterback the one spot where you don't? Why should that guy not have to have competition? But kind of as I'm watching all the anecdotal evidence, shoot, man, maybe he's right. I go back and forth.
It's a fine line to tightrope, I think, because
do you want your QB to be the guy?
I want my QB to be the guy, yes. But what I was getting at is the tightrope that you're on is, are you getting too comfortable or are you embracing competition? And I think you need a little bit of both at the end of the day. But I also want my quarterback to feel confident. And by feeling confident, is that because I made him the number one, didn't give him a lot of competition, I bought into him, I told him he was the one, and in turn, he continued to compete every day? Or did he just kind of sit down? Did he kind of just rest with it?
Let me ask you something. Should his makeup matter? Like, because what you're describing is, or what I hear, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Should his makeup matter? Like, so if I'm Raiola, and do you want the guy that wants to go to the place where he has the chance to make the quickest impact? Or is it rational or reasonable to think, oh man, go there and compete? Because what I hear from fans sometimes is, oh, he's afraid. We're not talking about Raiola, clearly. I'm just talking about in general when guys transfer. Oh, they're afraid of competition. Oh, they're afraid of competition. And sometimes people just want an environment that suits them. Should that Should his mentality already be in place, or you want to see that sharpen?
Are we talking
for
Raiola?
What you were just saying?
For Raiola?
No, in general,
Just
from
in
your
general.
quarterback, yeah. Because remember, you're kind of saying, well, I want him pushed, but is it going to be complacent? If complacency is creeping in your quarterback, do you have the right guy?
No, I don't think so. Unless you've set the message clear that, hey, you're the guy, but you're the guy because you're better than the rest. And you can see that, and everybody notices that. But if you're somebody that, you transfer in for environmental purposes.
Environmental. I like that. No, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's all based on, hey, now you have to compete for the job because we don't know you yet. We've seen you. We've seen you play. We know your tape, but do we know you as a person yet? I mean, we're still learning. So let me see what you can do out there.
Should we? Maybe quarterbacks are the way they are because we treat them differently.
Don't they deserve to be treated differently, though,
I'm kind of vibing a little, but it's the ultimate team game.
It is, but who drives the team?
I don't know. It
You
depends.
put
Are
the
you
ball-
talking to Brad Johnson? Are you talking to Trent Dilfer? Are you talking to Aaron Rodgers?
Hey, don't tell Trent Dilfer that he.
Are you talking to Joe Montana? Wrong. He had a lot of good players. You know what I mean? It's fascinating because but some of it is our fault because we've made them the guy. Their whole what's the best position to play in the state of Nebraska? It is the quarterback. What is the best position in the NFL? It's to be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
The best position to play is quarterback.
It seems like it, right?
You get the captain cue because you're the quarterback. You're involved in every play.
Maybe it's our fault.
Some of the better quarterbacks let another guy on the team do all the talking like they're the best, whether it be a wide receiver like Kelsey or I'm sorry, tight end like Kelsey or a wide receiver or something like that. I mean, they let them.
Maybe we're also getting into an age where the quarterback's the best athlete on the field.
Yeah, Cam Newton started that.
Right, but that's the age that we're getting into now. You look at the two quarterbacks in the Super Bowl. Those are the two best athletes on the field.
You know where I see that now is U Sports. The best athlete plays quarterback, and they figure out the rest.
It's kind of like in baseball growing up. The best athlete, unless you were the coach's kid, played shortstop, or you started. You were the pitcher. You always put your best athlete in your skill position.
I'm fascinated by the discussion.
What do you think? 888-638-4876. Random Mike on line 1. What do you think?
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Hey, I got to tell you, while I'm waiting, they got some kind of weird music playing. I can't hear what's going on.
Yeah, we're just going back and forth talking about quarterbacks.
Yeah, but typically when you're on hold waiting to get on, you hear what's going on, and
right. We're gonna.
So is this a new thing where you're playing music?
Well,
I think that's been a forever thing. But
you have to ask Shane. Yeah. He's the brains there, but
we're just the guys on the mic.
Can you hear it on the radio while you're on hold?
Well, that's what I did. But hey, I miss you guys. Listen, Damon, I remember you telling me that you felt the best player on your great teams you played for was Lawrence Phillips. Am I right?
Yes.
And I thought of all the great Nebraska teams that played for championships or were top 10, top 5, I think only one of them where I felt clearly the best player on the team was the quarterback.
That was let me guess, Crouch.
You got it. Would you agree with that?
That's interesting because I think a lot of people think Gill, except he played with Rozier, he played with Clinton. T. Fraze maybe was the best player. Gosh, you're probably right.
And part of that was what you were saying, teams, quarterback, the most important position, right?
Yeah.
But great teams, you got to have more than that. And Nebraska's great teams definitely did. And of course, the defenses were awesome.
On a Wednesday morning, huh? Mike, appreciate the call. Hey, when we come back, we got to play a game, though. It's 2 for you before we – hey, Travis on Twitter said they always put the shortest kid at second base.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, welcome back. We're about to play 2-4-U presented by Dingman's Collision Center. But before we start the game, I want to tell you a little bit about Dingman's. They have 4 locations throughout the metro area, along with their standalone mechanical shop at 120th and Maple. They've been in the business for over 25 years, and they're family-owned, family-run local business. We had Darcy in here last Friday, and she showed up with her little girl who's as cute as a button, and they both gave us some goodie bags. And in the goodie bag was an oil change, which DB is in need of, going tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 11.
And he is going to give our Dingman's read on Friday, because I just know that Dingman's,
I'm going to have an experience.
The way that they treat you, it's all experience-based. Plus, after you go, Dingman's does something really cool about their give back program. They have a place for you to pick who you'd like them to donate money to. It's a fantastic effort, and that's just who Dingman's is. And they look out for you, and they look out for the community. If you need help with your car, go to Dingman's Collision Center. They'll get you hooked up. Or that. Let's go to line 1. Ray's on line 1 here to play 2 for you. Ray, good morning. How we doing, Ray?
You doing good?
Ray, what's up, buddy? Good morning.
Ready to play?
I am ready.
You know how to play?
I do, and I want Andrew and BB.
Wow.
All right,
See,
let's
he's
go.
ready to go.
He is locked.
He's a smart man.
Yeah, he is.
Gotta
He's
get 40. Okay, let's see if we get $40.
$40 on the line. Let's start with this, DB. A president on currency.
Oh, here you go again. Another tough one. All right.
A basketball violation. A chip flavor.
Okay. I like these.
And a TV network.
Oh.
All right, you ready? All right, playing for Ray. 2 out of 4 gets him a $10 gift card, and then he can double down after that as long as we keep them coming, DB. So be locked in.
I'm worried about
You know
this
how the
first
game's
one
played.
right
Whatever
away.
I say is the right answer. So here we go. A president on currency. 3, 2, 1.
George
Abe Lincoln.
Washington. No. It's either going to be it was either going to be George Washington or Ben Franklin. Why Abe Lincoln?
Well, Ben Franklin wasn't a president,
That's true. Good point.
so it had to be George Washington.
Great point. Great point.
Why Abe Lincoln? Because he's on the penny and he's on the 5. Well, I guess Washington, isn't he on the nickel? Am I wrong when I
And
say
the
that?
dollar, yes. All right, 3 out of 4.
All right, we'll go 3 out of 4 for you, Ray. Don't worry. We'll get back on track with a basketball violation. 3, 2, 1. Traveling.
Right there.
Thank you, Shaner. There's one. There's one. A chip flavor. You nervous?
Yes.
Do I look nervous? Jordan Bennington. A chip flavor. 3, 2, 1. Barbecue. Money.
Okay.
Money. 2
All
out
right,
of
so-
4.
So he's in the
You're in the money.
run.
Ray, would you like to double down for a chance at a $20 gift card?
Well, you guys are heating up.
Yeah, we are. We are heating up.
The optimist. All right.
All right. This is a toughie. A TV network, DB. Do not let me down. 3, 2, 1. ESPN.
ESPN.
Nice work.
Good job.
Wow. That's a terrible name for a network.
All right, Shay, we got
Hey, 3 out of 4, Ray. You're the big winner. $20 gift card for you, courtesy of Hale Varsity Club. You can come down and get that at the hostess stand whenever you have a chance.
Love it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Hey,
Ray.
thank you. Not bad, DB.
Think he'll
Not
get the
bad.
cheeseburger pizza?
I
Did you
don't
see
know.
that was the special?
Yeah.
It
looks
sounds
fire.
delicious and it looked great. I just don't know if I could do the warm pickles. I got a pickle.
Most
I
pickles
got a
are
pickle.
warm when you
I-
put them on there. Because now, when you put a pickle on a burger, right,
Okay.
they start to steam a little bit, DB. They get
They're
warm.
not warm.
Well, they're not cold.
Yes, they are.
No, they aren't.
Can I give you guys my answers?
Yes.
Yeah. So what was the first one?
I think
first
it was a
one is-
president on currency.
The first one is
George.
I agree.
W. Bush. Sorry, it was George Washington is what
Okay.
DB
And
was
what's the
looking
second
for.
one?
Why did you kiss Joe Biden on the lips?
Traveling.
Oh, well, yeah, you were traveling over there.
Yeah. That was a foul. That was a party foul. It's a Democratic party foul last night.
That was.
I don't know. That was some heck of a smooch.
Third one.
What was the third one?
A
Chip flavor.
Kettle.
Huh?
That's a style of cook, but whatever.
Huh?
I mean, that's a flavor, isn't it?
I don't know. You could have said plain.
Plain. Yeah,
Yeah.
plain. I mean, that's the plain
Surprised you didn't
lays.
say something complicated like salt and vinegar.
The plain lays is the best.
that would probably
Cucumber
be a
dill.
The plain lays is the best. though.
Sour cream and onion.
Nothing's better than plain lays.
Dude, those are
and-
the only ones left in our variety chip box.
Sour cream and onion?
Yeah.
It's because they make your breath stink. They are good, though.
And I went with
What was the last one?
I went with ABC.
A, B, C. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3.
So picking you two guys was better.
Yes, it was, because Ray won some money.
Like off the top of my head, I think you picked the most obscure of the main currencies. Whoever has a 5.
Whoever has $1 anymore. Like, I feel I only have 20s. Like, I get,
Do I need to renegotiate my contract?
I get TJs. That's it.
Whoever has a 5. Is that just me? No, the last time I said, is that just me? The poll stated clearly it was just me.
Right.
Speaking of, by the way, I learned 3 things yesterday.
One was about temperature of meat.
Yeah. So, and when Abby asked me on Twitter, I was like, I don't know. Is there a difference? Like, I say medium for a burger, right? And I would say, I do specify medium rare for a steak, but I didn't know that there's a difference for most people. 80% order their burger differently than they do
their steak. Oh, yeah.
So I learned about bacteria and open and closed and good meat, bad meat. The other thing was when Shane, I thought Shane was whining a little bit when he said, well, it's only the people that like their steaks well done that we just get killed. And I was like, really? I thought it was the people that eat their meat rare. Like, ooh, that's gross, right?
Most people say that, but they're okay with it at the end of the day because you aren't cooking it.
89% landslide with over 5,000 votes.
Shane, how did that make you feel? Good?
Validated.
Because you were right?
You feel validated, Shane?
I did feel validated.
And the other thing is, apparently deodorant is overrated. There are lots of alternatives out there.
Nope. Guys, I'm telling you.
Schick started it.
Please put it on.
But I was riding with Schick. Because I'm a secret guy, a secret no aluminum. Now, I do rotate.
I'm a rotator.
But 2 of the 3 that I think I think even the degree I use is women's. It's the thin stick.
So you're saying when it's overrated that men versus women's deodorant is overrated?
My man Brian Wilson,
or are you saying Grizzly, not wearing it?
He was talking about these alternatives, right? Cocoa butter and some other stuff. Ben Eisenhart, another former player, has gone through the no deodorant phase. I'm like, I heard that with celebrities. That was like, what, about 10 years ago, Shane, when all those celebrities weren't wearing.
Like Brad Pitt.
Is that because he has armpits?
Oh, look at you.
But then there were, like, if you Google celebrities with body odor, most of them have their little taglines and stories are people that don't like deodorant. But apparently that's overrated. So I learned those 3 things yesterday.
I'm a big deodorant fan.
And I learned the difference between aluminum and no aluminum. I'm telling you, man, Twitter.
I'm a big
when used correctly,
deodorant fan.
When
please use it.
What, deodorant or antiperspirant?
Either
I did learn that there's. My mom told me a couple weeks ago, and I can't remember what she said. But I know that there's a difference.
Mom, I promise I was listening in the moment, but it just did. It went one ear out the other.
Fish tanks and clean rocks and all kinds of filters. I don't know. I was confused.
Hey, you and Shane should play.
No.
Yes.
No, because he's back on the phone.
Oh, you got lucky.
I did.
You got lucky.
I'm still trying to figure out why you picked the $5 bill, though. I kind of like the rationale of the 2, like on a penny and a. But I just don't. I don't run into a lot of people that have a 5.
I had some 5s over the weekend.
Of course,
maybe it was recency.
Yeah.
Out of breath, Brian.
Hey, but he's talking about our guy. I wonder if that's his guy.
Brian, should we bring him on?
Yeah, let's talk to B.
All right, Brian. You got a minute 40 here talking about a little LBJ action. What's up?
Hey, man, I give congratulations to the Lakers and LeBron for breaking Kareem's regular season scoring record for career. That's what I was going to do at first. But after listening to y'all, it sounds like I need to go pick y'all up a bouquet of deodorant sticks for my birthday on Valentine's Day. I had to make sure y'all ain't musty up there at Hale Varsity. People coming in and stuff saying, hell no, it's stink up in here.
Hey, I'm telling you what, I'm a big deodorant guy, Brian. You don't have to tell me.
Yeah. Hey, Danny, don't do that, Danny. Don't do that.
Oh, I'm not. I'm not.
not.
Listen. I'm the guy that takes the lid off of deodorants in the store, or will spray.
Them, yeah.
I will smell them and then put them back on
like
the
a candle.
Shelf. Yeah, I'm that dude.
Hey,
Brian,
all I'm thinking about. The kids, the kids become the host, but they smell like, don't do that.
I got to ask you something. So we were talking about how you like steaks cooked, right? And
yes.
So it seemed like most of the responses on Twitter that were from my fellow, like African American people,
yes,
is we didn't start eating real steak, rare or medium rare, until we were like adults, right? Like growing up as kids, we were pretty much ingrained that like your steaks were brown, right?
yes.
Okay.
If it ain't brown, it ain't done.
See that? I'm telling you, almost everybody that I know that looks like me is like that, and it's because of how we were raised.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I mean,
I didn't learn how to eat a steak differently.
I think
until I was
how
like
you were raised, though, right?
8 years
because
old.
like my dad made rare steaks every time,
and that's what you go with.
Yeah, that's what I go with. It's all about how you were raised. Let's talk about other things with Brian Christopherson next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Hey, back with you, top of the hour. If you're watching on YouTube right now, DB and I have switched sides. DB is now on the left, and I am on the right because normally I'm right.
Oh, look what he did.
Never mind. Now DB's back to being
He's
right.
such a
most
trickster.
of the time. Oh, we switch back again. Now Shane's just having fun over there in his corner. It's Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. We are live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hail Varsity Club. An hour of guests coming your way. We'll talk to Kevin Sjuts at 8:30. And we'll follow it up with Eric Warfield at 8:45. But for now, let's welcome in Brian Christopherson, senior writer for Husker 24/7. Brian, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
BC. Good morning. How are
It's
you,
always
buddy?
a good day when we get to talk to you.
Oh, well, that's very kind of you. I enjoy talking to you guys, too.
So your colleague, I'm pretty excited. He sent me a message a couple of days ago that Mike J. Schaefer, is in fact doing a Super 6 composite again. And for the record, BC, I just want you to know he can confirm I got it in immediately.
You're usually the last one.
Yes.
I think. Yeah.
I got it.
Didn't mean to call you out on the radio like that, but I think that's a known,
I got it
like
immediately.
that was a known thing by now.
Whew. All right. So
Yeah.
BC, I gotta know. You're watching this thing kind of unfold. It's the number one quarterback in the country. Shoot me straight. Does Brian Christopherson have Dylan Raiola fatigue?
No, I don't. I mean, he's such a big time player and is going to mean so much to whatever recruiting class he picks. I understand that the coverage is going to be through the roof. I think Nebraska has made their case very well, and I'll just say that I like Nebraska's positioning right now. We'll see how it plays out over the next couple months, but I think they've done everything right since Rule's staff has taken hold over there. Including sending 9 guys at one time to visit him. You're sending statements like that, and obviously there's the connection with his uncle here. I just like how Nebraska's approached it. I think there's a good feeling about how Rule handles his business from the Raiola family, from the interviews he's done with 24/7 Sports. So I'm optimistic on Nebraska's behalf, but we'll see.
Brian, do you like, from a quarterback standpoint, somebody that is labeled as the guy, or would you rather see quarterback competition in the room?
I like competition always everywhere. So I don't mind if there's a guy who's presumed to be the favorite by the public, and there's sort of a feeling that he's got the resume coming in and is going to win, but that guy needs to not think that, and you need to surround him with prospects that could beat him out. And you also have to make it known to your room, I think, at any position. This is nobody's job for sure. We're going on what you do in front of us, not what you've done before, not what recruiting ranking you had. And I know Matt Rule has done interviews where he said during their time at Nebraska, they'll start everybody under the sun. They'll start a walk-on at some point. They'll start all sorts of players at key spots. So I don't think we should just put anybody in pen. And I'm not just talking about if like Raiola got here, but at any position, I think we got to be careful with the new staff to act like we know exactly what they're going to do. I think they want it to be as competitive as heck. That's why there's there's big scholarship roster numbers. There's 40 new guys on campus. This is going to be quite an off season as far as the competitive standpoint, I think.
BC, you're super smart. So I'm asking you, how do you think, and I know he's a quick thinker. He's an amazingly good quick thinker. How do you think he's mastered the art so far of being chummy, but supremely confident? Because I think he exudes both those things at the exact same time.
Yeah, he does do that pretty well, I'd say. As somebody who doesn't do that himself, I'm not a good spokesperson on that, but It is a gift, I think, to be able to connect. I think the people who are just great communicators, they make the person who they're answering the question or talking to feel like they're the only one in the room for that moment. And not a lot of people actually do that. One thing I'll say in our brief interactions with Matt Rule, like when he's done media things locally, is I notice when someone asks him a question, he really dials into that person that asked the question, and he's looking at them, and it's almost like a one-on-one conversation takes place, even though he's in the media room. And that's a subtle thing, but I think it's stuff like that tells you someone's a pretty artful communicator or understands how to do it well. But I think the confidence probably comes from the fact that they have built programs. He sort of knows the formula they want to use. They've done it before. They're doing it again. And there's a track record that it has worked for them. And so with that, you're going to be under the belief that it can work again.
We're talking to Brian Christopherson, senior writer for Husker 24/7. Toss him a follow on Twitter at Husker247BC. Brian, how much further ahead would you say Rule is today opposed to his time at Baylor and Temple?
Yeah, I do think they're a lap ahead of where they were there. He pointed this out on one of his interviews. At Temple, they were in the middle of sort of switching conferences and elevating. I believe it was going to the American Athletic Conference at that time. And so I think they took some lumps on the head the first year, sort of because they were switching levels of competition somewhat, and also he was building at the same time. And then at Baylor, that one's pretty obvious to everybody. That was just like a very limited roster the first year. They had to start over with a ton of freshmen. I think they had like 40, 45 scholarship guys on the team when he took over. They were very down in the dumps with O-linemen. I think he said they had 3 or 4 scholarship O-linemen when they walked in the door. And remember last week's press conference with us when he said, I want 16 O-linemen. And I think Nebraska's got like 15 of them right now on scholarship, and that's not even counting walk-ons, or it's somewhere around there. So if you even just look at like the O-line and certain positions at Nebraska, you can see that there's a lot more stocked in the cupboards than there were at those previous stops for various reasons. And also, I think they truly believe there's actually some good football players that have been left here. And it's maybe a better team than the record has warranted over the last few years. And now it's about, building that chemistry and that sort of connection within a specific team in 23. But I do think they believe, and I'm basing it off Rule's comments, that they're ahead of those first years at other places where there's a little bit more expectation this time.
BC, on Hail Varsity Radio show yesterday, Schmitty and my man Herbal Essence were talking to Ron Brown, and he said something like kind of diagnosing Coach Rule that I think is unbelievably astute. He said, I think you have to have a certain level of fearlessness, right? You have to be able to overcome intimidation. That's one of the characteristics that he likes about Coach Rule. It seems like he said a million things without saying much at all. But can't you immediately see how that would be beneficial at this job in Nebraska?
Yeah. You're talking about fearlessness. I guess I'm thinking that through a little bit. It's an interesting quote.
I thought it was spectacular because he said, I thought about dealing with media, the pressures that come with it, the 50 people at a practice, the not falling into, well, we've done it this way, the black shirt tradition, the former players, like there's just so much that comes with this job. I think you have to be, you can't be intimidated by the masses.
No, that's a good point. You got to be unafraid to do it your way. And not get sort of bullied by the masses, for lack of a better way of saying it, into, well, this is the way it's done around here, don't you see? You know, you got to do this, you got to do that. There's history behind this. And I'm not saying with that, like, do away with the black shirts or something like that. But I just think sometimes we do get really stuck in Nebraska, like, oh, this is the way it was done, so you got to keep doing it that way. And that way hasn't worked necessarily lately. So I think you can, I like what they have said at various points, is you embrace that there's history here, you appreciate that about that place, but you also have to have an eye toward what's next. What's the thing where we can get out in front of people, like Nebraska used to do. And, you know, that was the thing about Tom Osborne that made him so great. Yes, he was a great X's and O's schemer, but he was an innovator. Like, he was somebody who was ahead of, like, this is what we need to be in the weight room. You know, this is what we need to do here and there. And all these outside aspects, people in other places weren't paying as close of attention to. So I do think that is required in that position, to be bold and to just, you know, be yourself, respect how it's been done, but also these are the different angles where we're going to maybe tweak it a little bit. And I think the benefit right now of coming in as Nebraska's head coach is it has been so bleak around here that I do think the fan base is more in tune with, like, yeah, let's try different things. Let's see what the new guy has to offer. And, you know, maybe a different point of view could be useful at this point.
To expand on that, what next point, let's look at, or what's next, excuse me. Let's look at positional outlooks for next season. Based on, say, the recruits that committed in the past few weeks, or even just who is returning on the current roster, which positions do you think receive the biggest boost for next season?
I think the secondary is very strong on paper, actually. I mean, they return everybody that was a starter almost. And then I just think there's all sorts of intriguing guys who have popped in that are going to make that competition bump along pretty well. So that spot I like. I think tight end is the most fascinating sidebar of all, just like what they can get done with Eric Gilbert and, you know, Fedone maybe being healthy now, and just like how that works out. I mean, you have two of the top tight ends in back-to-back classes now, hopefully going forward at the same time. And that's really interesting to me. You know, the D line and how that sorts out is probably the one where I hate to put like, oh, that's a question mark. I mean, we're a ways away from spring ball, but D line's a spot where I don't know as much about certain guys and how they're going to fit yet, or how they're going to play up front, or what exactly how they're going to align themselves, honestly. So D line is probably my biggest curiosity, is the word I would use, of those position groups. And receivers up there too, because it's just, they need more chairs in the room now. They've just loaded that competition up, and it's going to be all sorts of interesting.
BC, this level of surprise that I put Jaden Doss and my Super Six. Reach, you could see it or you like it.
No, I have no problem with that. I'm a Jaden Doss fan. I don't know if he'll be on mine. I actually haven't done it yet. I'm the last one of the party this time, Damon, and getting that in. But I like Doss a lot because, I mean, I remember when he committed, people need to not take this the wrong way, but you would hear the Debo thing, and it was just meant to be like, this is a jack of all trades guy. Like, he's you know, you can line up, he can run it, he can catch it, he can do everything you want as a versatile just athlete. And I think people forgot a little bit about him in the recruiting cycle. I think that tends to happen because when guys commit earlier and they just stay loyal, we kind of get all fired up in December about, oh, what about this new guy and that new guy? And then you have the portal additions. People need to go back and think about Jaden Doss Riley Van Poppel, you know, some of those guys who just hung around steady, Dwight Boodle, guys like that who were in this class for a while. They've known what they want to do. They stayed with it. And I know that the previous staff and Bill Bush thought an awful lot of Jaden Dawson. That was viewed as a huge score when they got him as a recruit. So I don't think that's a reach at all.
When you put together your Super Six, what position group are you leaning on in the upper half?
I think it can be all over the map. Like I bet you Tristan Alvano's on mine. I mean,
he's on mine as well.
He's on mine as well.
Yeah, I think he'll probably end up in when it's all put together, the composite. I bet he'll be in the top 4 or 5. And I think that's just an understanding in this fan base of, I mean, how many close games has this program lost over the recent years? And then you think about just watching Big Ten football each week. There's all these like 16-13, 2016 kind of games. If you have that kicker who you feels like, it's a 53-yarder and he can hit it, or that 44-yarder's in the bank and you don't have to go for it on 4th and 3, that changes everything. So there's a lot of pressure with that, but I know Damon knows as well as anybody that Tristan is built pretty well for it. So I think he'd be a guy that you would think strongly about. I think it's going to be really scattered from position to position. I don't think it's going to just be dominated by anybody. If I were to say a possible sleeper, Ethan Nation is one that I've been thinking about, the defensive back. I just like, whenever I see stuff pop up about him, I like how he goes about his business. He's kind of undersized and stuff like that, but so was Malcolm Hartzog, and I was a big believer in him a year ago. So I wonder if Nation could be sort of that guy in this class, but we'll see.
Also on my list.
Yeah, that's funny.
Also
it was
on my list.
So I was talking to Tristan last night, watching the West Side Lincoln East debacle. Then we were talking after the game, and he's running track because he wants to be more athletic, and he thinks jumping will work on his leg strength and track training will help his hip flexibility. He's not playing soccer as an all-state caliber soccer player, so because of risk of injury, but he's doing track to work on leg strength. That's when I say you don't need a baby, he doesn't need a babysitter. That's what I'm talking about.
Dedication, man. And I mean, you're talking about, I mean, Nebraska had a scholarship kicker on their roster and added him. I mean, that's a coaching staff that's like, got to have that guy. And I think everybody around here, I've never seen it quite like this. After that state title game, there have been examples close to it, but I don't know if I've ever seen the fervor like there was within the fan base. Like, Nebraska's got to have that guy. Like, they need him. Like, you can't let him go to Iowa or anything like that. And there was just like this, it was across the board agreement that a kicker needed to be in this class. And I don't say that in any way demeaning. I mean that as like, that's how good Alvano was to the eyes of this state, is that he just, and they're like, I want that guy in the clutch with the game on the line on my side, not kicking against me on Black Friday.
You know what it was, BC? The Nebraska fans were having flashbacks to Keegan Johnson's coming out party in the state championship when he had been really good all season. And Nebraska is kind of like, eh. Then he plays his ass off in the state championship, and everybody's like, we got to get that guy. We got to get that guy. Nebraska fans weren't going to let that happen again with Tristan Alvano.
Yeah, it feels like in-state recruiting is a little different right now. I don't know. It does. And I know that conversation's getting beat to death, but I think there's truth to it. And, you know, you bring up Keegan, another interesting guy in this class, Ismail Smith-Flores coming in late.
Completely
I don't know if a big enough deal was made of the fact that, you know, his dad was an Iowa legacy Hall of Famer, and Nebraska, you know, stole him away from Iowa. I know Bob Wager and the connection there, but if that were the other way around, you know, people would be losing their minds. Like, how'd Iowa take this guy away from Nebraska? So I think people need to recognize sometimes when it goes the other way too. Just saying.
BC, I'm over here losing my mind.
I feel like DB was just on mute over here based on all of his facial expressions.
Wasn't I not? So I almost put him as my sleeper, and I'm like, you know what? Watching his tape for a guy that hasn't played that long, being recruited like that, he's pretty good. Like, that's a good get. And I spent like 4 minutes basically just yelling at Andrew as he's nodding in affirmation because he has no idea why I'm so excited about it. But I'm like, we just flipped a kid that is a legacy guy, and he's good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Iowa offered him mid-fall. I mean, only like 4 or 5 games into his one season.
And they are very selective.
Yes, and they would, and people can say what they want about Iowa football, but they know a thing or two about the tight end position. We'd have to say that. I mean, they've had some really good ones. They have the best guys in the world that played at Iowa at that position. So I think I just feel like that's when people are sleeping on. I get it because he's only played a year. I like both him and Jeremiah Charles out of Arlington. I don't think those were forces at all. I know the Wager connection, and some people kind of wonder about that, but I've talked to both those kids, and just the way they are and sort of their mindset, I think they're going to fit well. So that's one I just thought, if the shoe were on the other foot and his dad had gone to Nebraska and he was going to Iowa, we would, everyone here would be all the talk for weeks, and no one cares the other way. So I'm just saying we got to be a little fair about that sometimes.
BC, call me crazy, but when putting together my list, I led with an O lineman, and my sleeper was actually an O lineman as well. I really like Machacek down low as a sleeper on this team. Which
you guys are in cahoots.
Which he could be like defensive as well, and you can touch on that too. But at the top, DB. Do you care if I share?
No, go ahead.
DB had Van Poppel at the top of his list, and I know a lot of people have or will put Malachi Coleman at the top of their list. But when I looked at team need, I addressed offensive line again, even though there are some returners there. I like Gunnar Gatula. What do you think about having him that high on the list, or do you think others, and I don't want to say more deserving because every recruit is deserving of the spot on this list, but do you think I'm crazy for going that high there?
No, just have patience, young Andrew, because people are, I'm telling you, people on these lists, people like to put their guys who are going to blow up, they think, the first year or two. But these lists aren't just about that. It's over the long haul. And if you're picking offensive linemen, you have to have it in mind, it might take toward 25, it might be 24, 25 till we see some of these guys, right? Actually on the field as main guys. So I think you got to keep that in mind, and you can make a good case for them. I like Sam Sledge a lot, as a possibility.
He was my sleeper.
And I always struggle with Jason's name, Machacek. Everybody knows who I'm talking about out of South Dakota. Right. It looks like he's going to start on the D line. That kind of flipped in the last couple of weeks, so he's probably a D lineman to start, but he would be a guy who I would definitely consider as a sleeper too.
Hey, I love going back and forth with you every Wednesday. Thanks so much for joining the show. We appreciate it, and we'll talk again next week.
Thanks, BC.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, coming up next, we are talking to another cat out of Lincoln, and that man's name is Kevin Sjuts. He'll be joining the show. Lots to talk about, and maybe we'll start with high school next.
Let's get it.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, let's have some more fun as we continue our hour of guests. It's Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. He's Damon Benning. I'm Andrew Rogers. And on the phone, we have Kevin Sjuts, sports director over at 1011 News in Lincoln. Kevin, good morning, man.
Happy Wednesday. Good morning.
Good morning. Special K. That's sometimes what I feel like I should be calling
Good
with
nickname.
a little cereal in the morning. So every other week I've asked you, I think I have my answer. The best high school basketball team in Lincoln is
Lincoln East.
Correct.
But I mean, it's on a tee after what happened last night, though, DB. Like, we can talk on Friday or Saturday after East plays Pius, and that answer might change. It's so crazy. If you would consistently do this over the past, 90 days, the answer probably would have changed 5 times.
I just think, and I'm a little, full disclosure, I'm a smidge biased because I love Carter Mick. It's the baseball in me. I like the way he plays. He's ultra competitive. He shredded Westside last night and did it with a smile. And Templemeyer, those guys are just so tough, and they're well coached. Like, I don't know. I think the record looks to be legit with Lincoln East. I didn't love all their quality wins coming in, but they're way good. They're pretty good.
They're hot right now, and you hit a couple of important factors there. They're well coached. That's an understatement.
He's amazing.
Jeff Campbell. He has toughness on his team, which he demands. They're fundamentally sound, and they defend. I don't think they get near enough credit for the way Lincoln East defends. And when they get a stop, they run.
Yep.
They don't catch your eye, though, guys. That's the thing about Lincoln East. They don't have the flash or the star power, or like if you watch them in warm-ups, they just look like a good team, not a team like, oh my goodness, I got to watch these guys. But they're the collection of the parts, and they're a really, really good team. They lead all the teams in Lincoln with 15 wins, and right now they are hot. 6 in a row, and I think last night winning at Westside, I don't know why it took a road win in Omaha for everybody to settle in and say, all right, this team's for real. I think that folks in these parts have said, that's a good team, but yet the resume looks a little bit better this morning.
So spot on. I mean, I'm like nodding, and the whole warm up.
Well, it's because you gave him 3 weeks to come up with that answer.
But I'm partial to Coach Campbell. Like that's I'm on record, right? Like I'm a big Coach Campbell guy. We joke around, we talk. I was messing around with him before the game, but the little deal about the warm ups and watching them and not being overly whatever the adjective is, but man, he was calling out plays. He's 2 feet out on the court. He knows our offensive sets. And the defensive thing, foot in the paint, not allowing guys to get downhill. I don't know, Suits. You may be selling yourself short. Maybe you should be one of those basketball prognosticators, because you know those guys like the back of your hand. That was about as spot on as it gets.
We need bracketology for Lincoln High School basketball. I'm your guy, I guess. But here, what does this all mean? I've had this conversation recently. It's been a fun regular season for basketball in Lincoln, probably better than I can remember over the past 15 to 20 years.
Yeah.
But is it just going to be a fun regular season, or will it amount to something in the postseason? And if it does, what's the barometer? Is it just getting 3 teams to state? Is it getting a team into the semifinals in Class A? I don't know. It's awesome right now. I hate to start thinking about the postseason being the great evaluator, but I really do feel like maybe it's going to end up a little hollow if all these teams kind of fade out in districts, or they just make it to state, but no one makes a run.
Hey, keeping it with basketball here, unless you have another follow-up.
No, I'm good.
Keeping it with basketball here. Yesterday, we got a question on the show that was in reference to college basketball, and if you were taking a team today to win it all, who would it be? And then when the bracket comes out too, and you see a team that's 5 or lower, who you would take to make a so-called Cinderella run in that group? Because I know you release your AP Top 25 every week. So based on everything that you've been seeing with how wide open this field is, what do you think, Kevin?
Andrew, that's wild. I had that same conversation last night with someone.
Hey, you don't have to tell them about our text exchange.
Filling out a bracket right now is an impossible task. And it's not going to change, I don't think, leading all the way up to March. Purdue is going to be the sexy pick because they're number 1. I don't think they're going to win the national championship. I don't know that they'll make the Final Four.
Agreed.
I just don't know that team is deep enough and built for a postseason run. The complementary pieces around Edey, I think if they just need one more guy. But to answer your question, beyond 5, who's the team to pick? Well, it's crazy because that group 5 that's 15 changes every single week because there are constant updates in college basketball or upsets in college basketball. Baylor, Virginia, though they've been inside the top 5. Who else would I maybe throw in that mix? I really like Virginia. That's a team that
I do too.
I think is built. I think they're built for the postseason. They can shoot it. Amazing coaching, and that's a team when they get a chip on their shoulder, they play so well. North Carolina State, I think that's a team that's really getting better as the season goes on. I'd throw them in the mix, and then again, top 5 or not, UCLA, Arizona. One of those two teams is going deep into the tournament.
Hey, watch out for the Thundering Herd, too, out of Marshall.
Oh, yeah, he's on this Marshall tip. But since I don't know if it's just because I profess my affinity for you over all these years, but you're hitting on all my chords, right? You nailed the Lincoln East, the basketball thing. And did you hear the school that he kind of casually threw in there?
Yeah, North Carolina State.
No, ding dong. UCLA. Like, for some reason, I'm a sucker. I don't know. Kevin, I think that's the team. And I did. Full disclosure, I watched him get annihilated by Arizona. Got handled by USC. I still like UCLA as kind of that sexy pick.
They have experience in the postseason. Jaime Jaquez, can't you see that being one of the guys that just goes off in the tournament?
Sure can.
And Mick Cronin, he's a great coach. And I'm with you, DB. Like, there have been games that I've flagged and be like, I've got to watch this game. And you just expect so much more out of UCLA than what they end up producing. That Arizona game in particular. But I think overall, that's the summary of this season, though. There are teams that have really nice records, but in the big moment, you think that they're going to take off and separate themselves, and it just doesn't happen. Look at Kansas.
Yeah.
My goodness. Kansas has 5-6 losses.
Yeah.
But they're still considered a national championship contender.
They get good point guard play. It's over. Let me get you out here on this, Kevin, because you're right there in the heart of the pressure cooker, and you see all the media, the throngs that cover the sport. And Coach Brown said something to Chris Schmidt yesterday on the Hail Varsity radio show I think is fascinating. He said, and I quote, "You have to have the ability to overcome intimidation." I like the fearlessness so far that I've seen in Coach Rule. For some reason, Kevin, I was like, yes, that's what has to happen at the University of Nebraska for a multitude of reasons as a head coach. Are you vibing with that?
Absolutely. And here's the thing that I would add on to that, Damon, is that Coach Rule, he's in awe of Nebraska and its history and getting to sit down with Coach Osborne and reaching out to Dominic Sue and so much that goes into the past here, but it doesn't overwhelm him. He embraces it, and he walks this very fine line of like, yeah, this place is awesome. I know there's pressure to win, but it's not affecting who he is. He's so comfortable in his skin. And I think that is maybe what Coach Brown is talking about with how he doesn't have that intimidation factor. There's fearlessness. And I think that's just because Matt Rule just knows what Matt Rule believes, and he's got the guys around him that enable him to be himself at all times.
Hey, Kevin, thank you so much, too, last night, before we let you go, for posting that pic of LeBron on your Twitter page. It was fantastic to see you pay tribute to him in that moment.
I'm pulling my hair out, Suits, and I'm a diehard Lakers fan, man. I don't know what to do with this.
Okay, let's clear this real quick. I'm an Illinois guy. I grew up in Illinois. When Michael Jordan played, it was on TV, no doubt. Every single night. He was a winner. He's my guy. You will not be able to convince me in my mind anyway that there is somebody other than Michael Jordan as the greatest basketball player of all time.
Let's get to
it. Hey, Kevin, I'm a Bulls fan too. I'm with you.
God love him. Man, that run was just incredible. And if I could go back in time, I would go back to the 90s sitting on my mom's living room floor watching Sports Channel Chicago, Scottie Pippen, John Paxson. We can go down. Luke Longley. I'd go back to watching Luke Longley, guys.
You're the man, Kevin.
See you, Kevin. Wow. Hey, let's talk to Eric Warfield next.
Ooh-wee.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
George Darlington, the secondary coach from Nebraska, loves his defensive backfield right now.
3-step drop, Bishop throwing, and it's knocked away, and it's intercepted by Warfield. He has the sideline. And he'll get it to the 16-yard line.
Well, that's nice of you, Shane.
How about that? What an intro.
Taking care of my guy.
We'll be talking to Eric Warfield now, and Eric is not only just a great football player, but a great person, according to DB, which is why he's here with us today. Eric, good morning.
Good morning. I haven't talked to Damon in so long. It's a pleasure to be on here with it.
Not since last year or 2 years ago before the Chiefs Super Bowl run. So, but listen, I follow you on social media, and Andrew, and I can joke with you because we're boys. He goes,
don't follow me on social media. You have my phone number. You can reach out to me down there.
Hey, when I have a question, I think I go to your Twitter page.
So Edub, this is the funniest thing ever. Because full disclosure, Andrew, Eric used to live with us. He came down early from Texarkana and Lincoln, and he stayed with us. We tried to take good care of him, and we enjoyed doing this. But so we go way back. But he goes, so what is Eric doing these days? What does he do? And I looked dead at him, Ian. I said, nothing. Living the good life. He likes to golf.
Yeah, he didn't give you that nice of a response. He just said playing golf. That's all he said.
But that's the American dream, right?
Most of it.
Right? That's the American dream, though, right? You got your financial planner, you got on a budget, you did the right things. You should be able to enjoy the perks of life, right? You look like you're living the good life.
Yeah, you have to. I got lucky. And my best friend is right there in Lincoln, Nebraska with you guys. So he was working at Wells Fargo when I first got to Kansas City. And I went to Kansas City with an entourage. Like, my brother moved in with me. Had a couple of college teammates to come to Kansas City with me. Kids from high school came. I'm a 7th round pick. I don't make that kind of money to be taking down, those kind of people. So lo and behold, it's a month after the season. I'm dead ass broke.
Yes. It's safe to say you got better at balancing your checkbook later on in life.
My guy got an immaculate place in Omaha, condo.
Yes.
Him and AG. Amon had one too. I went over there. We hung out. E, how many things of tequila did you have waiting for me in the freezer?
Oh man, that little place there was something else. Good gosh, Damon, why you bring that up?
Hey, I'll change gears then.
Well, I just think it's impressive because I watch you. You don't take yourself that seriously. You've never bragged about, I've done this and I've done that. Like, it's just your personality. You're a giver by nature. You're just easy going.
Yeah, that's me, man. I got that from my mom. When I was in high school, she took in 3 other kids, same age as I was, and raised her own 3 kids along with these other 3 kids. And I'm sitting there, amazed at this single lady trying to raise her 3 and then 3 other adults, and to get them all to go to college. So she did an excellent job of doing that, preparing us. And I think that big heart can be taken advantage of at times. Being in situations that I've got with the legal stuff, and the world knows that. So it's just I fell prey to certain things that I wish I hadn't. But I love the life that I've lived. I regret maybe 1 or 2 things. Other than that, man, I'm happy with where I'm at.
We're all mama's boys.
I think at the end of the day, all 3 of us.
All 3 of us are mama's boys. Hey, Eric, you mentioned being a 7th round pick for the Chiefs. Let's talk about that in regards to just your love for that team, that organization. Being a Chiefs guy through and through, and I know you ended your career with the Pats, but how cool is it to root for this team and to watch them have the success that they are having nowadays?
I love it. We waited a long time for this. We've had some good teams in Kansas City. None have ever gotten as far as what Patrick Mahomes has taken us. So I'm the number 1 fan. I love everything that Andy Reid's doing, Clark Hunt's doing, Patrick Mahomes, and how he lives within the moment with the biggest spotlight on him. It's just, it's good to be a Chiefs player. It's good to be a Chiefs fan.
Hey, let me ask you something, because I think something that's underappreciated is the front office, right? With Veach and Tim Terry and these guys massaging the cap and contracts. They've drafted unbelievably well. Do you appreciate you're around a lot of pros? You spent time as a pro. How much appreciation post-playing do you have for front office and management?
Not an easy job,
man.
Being that we played in Nebraska and we've seen the revolving door of coaches come in, ADs come in, and not being able to bring in the right crew to get you in that, back where we used to be. You don't even have to be in, the championship Huskers, but you just miss that longevity of front office, personnel, coaches, and postseason play. And to see what the Chiefs have done, mainly by bringing in Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, it's just amazing. Then you can just go out and do what you can with the amount of money that you're granted to put the pieces in that they need. We thought that losing Tyreek Hill was going to be tragic for us, and all of a sudden Patrick has come out and put up excellent numbers. One of his better years, and without a really go-to receiver outside of Kelsey. Kelsey's a tight end, but he's out there putting up wide receiver numbers. So yeah, just to go and see the things that the Chiefs have continued to do goes to show the detail that Clark Hunt has put into hiring the right personnel.
Yeah, further expand on that point, because we've had conversations with, Chiefs insiders in the past about how this was supposed to be a so-called rebuilding season.
Yeah, next year was kind of what they were ramping up for,
and
with
now
the young secondary. And
all of a sudden, here they are back in the Super Bowl. Who gets the most credit, do you think, for that? Is it Mahomes? Is it Andy Reid? Or is it somebody else?
Okay, now, outside of all the great things that Andy Reid has done, well, I think for me, I have to take my hat off to Pat. Pat is just phenomenal in the things that he does. And I made this reference years and years ago. He's kind of like the Steph Curry of the league. When Steph Curry hit, nobody had ever seen playmaking like that, shooting like that. And all of a sudden, Pat comes out. He's got this phenomenal arm. But outside of the arm, you see the crazy backyard plays that he's doing behind the back, behind the neck. He's out there looking like Magic Johnson, completing passes. So it's very rare you get a player like that to come in and carry your franchise for the amount of years that he's done and to be that successful. But like I said, to lose a Tyreek Hill, and like you said, everybody thought it was going to be a rebuilding year. Man, it's like he didn't miss a step.
I'm not complaining here, E, because I'm getting to talk to a former Chief and a good buddy. But I got to ask you about the opponent, right? Is there some – yeah, right, Mr. Good-Natured. Is there some part of you that's like, hey, man, I appreciate, I can admire, I like what Jalen Hurts is doing, just not at my Chiefs' expense?
I love what Philly's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Philly's good. Philly's real good. And when I saw what they did to San Fran, I had to take my hat off and be a little concerned because they're an overall good team, defensively and offensively. They have the pieces to get it done. I just have that much more faith in my Chiefs. And, if we got a healthy Patrick, I think, we easily win this. But even with a unhealthy Pat, we saw what he did in the last week's game on 1.5 legs. So it's just fun to watch him play. But, yeah, the Eagles aren't anything to look past.
Who's the young guy you like watching in that secondary?
I like them all. It's not like one stands out because collectively they come together at the end of the season at the right time to make things work. We thought losing Honey Badger was going to hurt us, and yet, we don't get the amount of turnovers and playmaking ability that he brought, but we're looking just as good. So, yeah, just the overall unit of the secondary is good right now.
Eric, how much do you buy into the Nick Sirianni's so-called snub whenever Andy Reid took over that job back, when was it, like 2010 or something like that?
He's just you still got to take your hat off to Sirianni for what he's done. Nobody was thinking that Jalen Hurts would be in this situation. Not one single person. And he's got that team playing excellent football. So you got to give him credit for where he's at, what he's done. And, he's made some snarty remarks throughout the season when they got rid of Frank Reich out of Indy. And then he's had some other moments where he speaks out. So for him to go out and be as vocal as he is, animated as he is, he has a team in the Super Bowl. So you got to respect what he's done.
Eric, thanks so much for your time today. Hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate the call.
Hey, thank you. And thank you to another one of our sponsors, Zipline. Before we let you go, their Copper Alt is a new fan fave. It's malty, it's balanced, it's classic. It's that hybrid style between ale and lager. Go check it out. Zipline Brewing, they'll hook you up there. We'll see you tomorrow on Coffee and Cream.